Hello and welcome to the Football Fellowship podcast. My name is Mevin.
And my name is Toby. This is the first episode of our weekly football podcast where we are going to be breaking down and reviewing the biggest games of the week, as well as looking forward in the football calendar and previewing what's coming next.
Whether you're listening to us on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, we appreciate your support in joining us at the beginning of our Football Fellowship journey.
Today's episode, we are going to be attempting to make a combined Premier League prediction table for the upcoming season.
Yes, so what we've done is we've both gone separately, and we've both written down our Premier League predictions 1 to 20, who we think is going to win the league, who do you think is going to top 4, European places, mid-table and relegation. And today we have to agree.
Yep. Any discrepancies, any disagreements, we're going to have to try and find a compromise where we can.
Yes, and have you found it? Have you found it challenging, quite easy?
I would say it's been a bit of a mixed bag. The teams that have done their business early, obviously it's a lot easier to sort of see what their squads are looking like. But there's a good handful of teams that haven't really done much business yet. They've had sort of varying squads in pre-season, and the same almost at the end of last season as well. A lot of teams trying new things out. So yeah, I would say a mixed bag overall. How about yourself?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's naturally easier for the teams who've made transfers to see what their season is going to be like, how they're going to progress, what areas still need improvement. Whereas the teams who haven't made any signings, you're still kind of looking at what are you going to be doing, where are you going to be, and you kind of naturally gravitate to putting them a bit lower down in the league.
Yeah, especially if other teams are getting better and they're staying the same, naturally they are going to be dropping down.
I would say, though, if you did this video a couple of weeks ago, I would have struggled a lot more than I did today. Because I think a couple of weeks ago, I was still putting the teams in the places they finished last year. Whereas now, with a bit more information, season's less than 2 weeks away, I feel like I've come up with a good 1 to 20, and hopefully we agree. And if not, we'll see what. If not, we've got to compromise. Compromise. So, is there anyone in particular that you feel very strongly about or negatively about the forthcoming season?
I would say probably my most confident prediction would be maybe not necessarily the specific place, but I think that Fulham are going to be dropping a few places in the table. I was just looking over the sort of expected numbers last year. They scored 9 more goals than they were expected and conceded 10 less. So that difference, a 19 goal difference of what they should have been expected from the stats, is a big jump to what they actually did. I think a large part of that is probably down to Mitrovic's finishing. Potentially his XG wasn't super high. And with him looking like he's going out the door and Jimenez coming in as a replacement, I don't know if that's a like-for-like replacement. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that would have been a great signing for them. He was one of the top 10 strikers in the league, I would say. But since his injury, he hasn't quite looked the same, unfortunately. And I can see that just really affecting them.
Yeah, I think it's a big plus that Fulham have managed to keep Marco Silva, because Al-Ali reportedly made a bid for a 2-year contract for £40 million, which I think is an incredible amount of money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But the fact that he's supposedly turned them down, it looks like they're going to be keeping Paulinho, who I think is crucial for that midfield. I think without him, they would have really struggled last year, and he was really a standout player for them, Fulham last year. I think also, if Mitrovic does go, they need to replace him. I know you said Jimenez is coming in, but I don't think the combination of him and Carlos Vinicius is going to do much.
No.
I mean, he scored 5 goals and 2 assists last year, but his XG numbers were really low. They were 3.3 and expected assists were only 0.8. So that's incredibly low. What gives me hope is the fact that they're going to bring in some more reinforcements. Callum Hudson-Odoi is reportedly looking to come in. They've agreed personal terms, Fulham, but they need to agree a fee with Chelsea. They made a bid of £4 million. Chelsea want to reportedly around £8 million. And they've also brought in Willian again from a free transfer, who obviously did really well for them, unexpectedly as well last year. So I think with a few more additions, I think Fulham can do all right. I think they will be fine.
Yeah,
so
I think they'll stay up, I think. I don't think it's going to be a crazy drop.
But definitely, I definitely think worse.
Yeah, I've got them in my league at 14th.
Okay, well, I've got 15th.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to have them hyped, but I suppose you were maybe talking in terms of they will be staying up, definitely.
They will staying up, yeah. I think it's so tough that, losing 1 or 2 key players can really make a difference, and especially if you don't reinvest that into the correct players and the right number of players, I think that can really jeopardize a team, especially when you're talking about the key players who were the reason you stayed up and did really well. But I definitely don't think fighting for Europe this year.
No, I can't see that even myself.
So we could say Fulham 14th/15.
Yeah,
see how the rest of our list goes.
Yeah, try and see where we can fit them in, because I think around that is fair.
Yeah. And, well, if you've gone on 14th, I'll go with the team who I had in 14th, and that's actually Burnley.
Okay.
Obviously, newly promoted Burnley. A lot's been made of their team, and obviously Vincent Company and the whole story and the whole narrative around him being Pep's understudy, captain, going to Anderlecht. Did he succeed? Did he fail? Coming to Burnley now. And he dominated the championship in a league in which people thought kind of similar to Pep Guardiola in a way. When he first came in, people thought he wouldn't be able to do it, wouldn't be able to implement his pressing, fluid football, and he did it, and he did it spectacularly well, dominating the league and destroying everyone. And a lot of people think that maybe Burnley have a shout for Europe. I think that's a bit optimistic this year, especially first year back in the league. I think it's too much to ask, because I remember watching Burnley in the FA Cup against Man City and seeing how they played really well in that first half, but they still lost 5-0. And I just think that that's going to be a case for the whole season, in which they're going to play really good, attractive, attacking football, but they're going to get battered as well.
I think so. I can definitely see them being a team who are going to stay in the league, and as they stay in the league and their squad again sort of gets used to the jump up from the Championship, they will push on. I can definitely see becoming one of those teams like Brentford at the moment, who are consistently finishing around that 10th, 11th place. But I don't know if I can see it straight away.
Yeah.
I think they've had some good signings. I think Trafford coming from Man City as a goalie is a really good signing.
Do you think he's going to start?
I'm not sure. They've now got two good keepers.
Yeah.
I'd like to say yes, because he, especially when he was at the Under-21s World Cup, he was fantastic. He was one of England's best players.
That crucial penalty save right last minute.
That clutch save. Yeah. But especially with a keeper coming in and replacing their already starting keeper is a big ask. So I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit like Gavin Bazunu, who obviously made the jump, obviously again from Man City, from Portsmouth to Southampton, and really it was maybe a league too far, too quick, and you kind of saw he was a decent keeper, he has loads of potential, but I think it might be a bit too soon for him to be starting in the Premier League week in, week out. And I think it's one where he might be one for the future. Maybe a loan to the Championship, and not skip a division in your progression, because Bazunu's now going to go back to Southampton in the Championship. They got Alex McCarthy, got a few other goalkeepers on the books. Is he going to be starting week in, week out? Has he lost the trust of the fans? You don't want to lose that trust before you've even earned it. But I do agree, they have made some terrific signings. I mean, got Nathan Redmond, re-signed Bayern on a permanent deal.
Yep.
Dara O'Shea from West Brom, who I think is ready to make that jump up. And I think all in all, they will just have a solid season. I mean, don't forget Raul Weghorst is back on the books,
main man.
Back at the books after his loan spell at Man United. So I had them in 14th. I think, I don't think Burnley fans will be upset if they finish 14th. Did you have them a bit higher, a bit lower?
I had them a little bit lower. I have them at 16th in my prediction at the moment. I think one of sort of the main takeaway stats of looking at the Championship last season was how much they overperformed their XG. I know they got over 100 points, but they overperformed their XG by 20, which I know there's more games in the Championship, but I think to have that much of a jump of the chances you're creating and the chances you're taking is a lot, and I can see that, especially in the Premier League, they're not going to be making as many chances as they did in the Championship. And I think that's where they may struggle. I think they'll play good football, and I think defensively they might be okay, but I can't see them scoring as many goals as they did in the Championship.
I think they're really going to miss Nathan Tella, who's obviously was on loan from Southampton, smashed up the Championship, 17 goals, 5 assists, and to not have him this time round. Apparently, they have made a bid for him, but if you're Southampton, you keep him and you use him to help you get promoted back to the Premier League. You don't sell him on to Burnley. So, I had them only just above Fulham.
Okay.
I don't think they're getting relegated. I think they could be anywhere from 17th to 10th. And I think anything above that would be a fantastic season. I think relegation would be a massive disappointment for them because of how well they did. I'm not too fussed, really.
We can keep them maybe...
Do you think they're going to have a better season than Fulham?
Thinking about it now, probably.
Yeah?
Possibly. I know I had Fulham ranked higher. Maybe that's a bit of a safe prediction.
Yeah.
With Burnley coming up.
Well, it's safer to put Burnley lower than... Maybe it's safer. Oh, I don't know.
Should we keep them in that same ballpark for now? Or Well, no, let's make a call. Let's make a call now. Let's go for who we think.
Fine, I think Burnley are going to have a better season than Fulham this year.
I think if Mitrovic goes, I would agree with that, and I'd be happy to say he probably will.
4 weeks still of the
By the
transfer
sounds of it.
window. He said he doesn't want to play for Fulham anymore and he wants to leave. So should we go Burnley 14th?
Burnley in 14th,
Okay.
Fulham in 15th.
Okay. We've kind of gone low in mid-table. Let's
Should we carry on as we are?
let's put the balls on the line. Who's going to get relegated?
Who's going to get relegated?
Give me 18.
Unfortunately, at my 20th at the moment, I think a lot of people are going to have this in their prediction, is Luton. I have them sitting at the bottom of the table at the moment. They were only the 8th highest scorers in the Championship last season. I can't see them scoring many goals at all. I think a lot of their goals and assists coming from Colton Morris. I think they might have an over-reliance on him. If he doesn't perform, I can't see where they're going to be getting many goals at all. Defensively, I think they'll be good. I think they'll be solid. It seems that sort of back threes coming up into the Prem do seem to transition a lot better. They don't seem to have the same defensive problems. They don't seem to be as open as teams coming up with a back four. And I think even despite maybe the atmosphere that everyone wants Kenilworth Road to have, I don't think it's going to make much difference. And unfortunately, I think they're just going to go straight back down with a fight. But I think they will be finishing bottom.
Big fight in 20th, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I do agree. I do think that, I think even from the Luton Town fans' perspective, I don't think even the fans are expecting them to stay up in the league. I think that's evident from, they didn't even have Rob Edwards as the manager at the start of the year. Really, did they? I think it was one where, he came in November. He did a fantastic job coming through the playoffs, beating Coventry, and I think everyone had Coventry to go up. And there's a lot of goodwill because of the fact that the minnows and they have to do all the revamps to the stadium. No one expects them, blah, blah, blah. But I do agree that I think they are going to go back down. I've got them 19th.
Okay.
Because I do think that the stadium and the fans and the home crowd is going to give them some impetus to actually fight for some results at home. And I think they're going to do all right. Because I actually have Sheffield United in 20th.
Okay, well that's all right then, because I have them in 19th.
Yeah,
so yeah, so we have that little swap.
Perfectly in sync, aren't we? Yeah, because I think although Sheffield United have been in the league a lot more recently than Luton, I do think it's just the fact that I think they're a very poor Championship side, despite finishing second as well. The manager Paul Heckingbottom, he doesn't have a lot of experience. He was off there Barnsley, Leeds United, Hibernian, and now Sheffield United. But I don't think it's one where Sheffield United are going to... I just think they're going to struggle. They got Illiman and Dye up front, who was a talisman last year, played 46 matches, 14 goals and 11 assists. Did really well for them. But he's been linked with Marseille, and I don't think he's going to make that move now because Marseille have signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So they wouldn't need him now anyway. But I think with 1 year left in his contract, he's going to use this as an audition to show teams how good a player he is. And he's not going to be there in the fight in the last 5-6 weeks of the season. I don't think so, personally. I think they do have some good players. I think Sanderberg in the middle of that park is going to be really important for them. I think
that's one I've got noted down as one to keep an eye on for the coming season, definitely.
I'm actually surprised he didn't leave the last time.
Yeah, when they signed him this season, I think they signed him the season they went down. I think they signed him in January.
He got badly injured.
Yeah, and he had a couple games where you could tell he was standing out on that team. I didn't see much in the Championship last season, but still his stats are still great and he still looks like a really good player.
He's going to be a rock in that midfield. And I think at centre-back, when they have Admedjovic, who's... going to be really good for them. I was surprised the fact that he actually went to a Championship side in Sheffield United. No disrespect, but I thought he could have done a lot better. I think he could have done for a Championship, a Premier League side, lower end of the table. But I'm just not getting... It's just a gut feeling, but I just don't feel like they're going to offer much to the league this year. They still have like Robinson, Norwood, Ollie McBurney, some players who were there from last year, but I don't see it personally myself.
I think with both of those teams, they haven't made any impactful signings yet either. Any sort of big signings. I know Nakamba's gone to Luton on a perm, it seems. Besides the same players there last year, I think those two teams are the two teams that are going to struggle the most.
Yeah, Luton did sign Tahith Chong, former Man United youth prospect from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Anderson from Barnsley, who was one of their best players, and I think both teams are just arming themselves for the championship again next season,
Possibly.
getting those parachute payments and trying to dominate the championship. And when they do come up back to the Prem, maybe in 2 years' time, it's actually a bit more convincing and they have a much stronger squad.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I think we're both in agreement that Sheffield United and Luton are going down.
So what do we think?
I mean, I'm not too. You gave me Fulham, so I'm happy to put Luton in 20th.
Yeah. As much as I don't want to, I just really can't. I can't see them getting higher than 19th, and I think that unfortunate 20th position will be inevitable for them.
Yeah. So there's a good few teams in between those two. So should we just go through our 3 teams in between those positions?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Should we maybe keep our relegation candidate for the last one? So should we go, who have you got in 16th? I don't think we've had your 16th yet.
So my 16th is Nottingham Forest.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just one where I think after last year, finishing 15th, that they really struggled. I mean, bringing in a total of 30 players over the course of 2 transfer windows, but the turnover was massive. And the fact that some of those players still need to be shipped out, the likes of Chris Wood, John Joe Shelby, they've come in, but they haven't really fit the style of play. The fact that Nottingham Forest made the deal with Newcastle for Chris Wood, and after three appearances in the matchday squad, they had to sign him on a permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he immediately doesn't fit your style of play, and he's not good enough, and then you're already trying to get rid of him with 12 months left in his contract on massive wages.
Mm-hmm.
I think John Joe Shelby's had a falling out with the manager, Steve Cooper, and it looks like another one that's not worked out. But I just think, there's some players like Renan Loddy's gone to Marseille, so they need a left back, they need a full back. They signed Awani from Torino, I think it was. So they maybe can play left back, but Omar Richards was injured for a large proportion last year, so he needs to get match fitness. I think maybe the goalkeeper. I mean, they haven't signed Dean Henderson yet, who's been linked with. Keylor Navas, it appears like he's not interested in going back. And at the moment, they've actually got Norvath, who was on loan at Luton last year. So he at the moment, time of recording, he looks like he's going to be starting in goal. Obviously signed Anthony Elanga, who's going to probably play that kind of right winger kind of backup to Brennan Johnson. But I don't know. I just think it might be another season struggle. But the only reason I don't have them relegated is because they got Taiwo Awoniyi, they've got Morgan Gibbs-White and Brennan Johnson who's going to score them goals.
That's the same 3 players I've got. The ones to keep an eye out on, the ones who may keep them up. Awoniyi especially, 0.64 goals per 90 last season. He did not get anywhere near enough minutes as he should have done. He is a really, really good player. Same as when he was at Union Berlin, almost identical, 0.62 XG per 90, which is over a goal every 2 games, which would get you 20 goals in a season if he's playing all 90 minutes. They're not making many chances, Forest, and he is someone who can take that ball and put it in the net for them. It just depends if he's going to get that game time again. I think he will this season, and I really hope he does, especially if Brennan Johnson and Gibbs-White are going to be playing alongside him as well. I think that is a good attacking unit. I mean, especially even if they have Brennan Johnson, Elanga on the wings, and Gibbs-White in behind Awoniyi, that is a really strong front 4. But I just don't know what their starting attack is going to be and whether they are going to have that much firepower.
I think they're really struggling in depth as well, aren't they? Obviously, Elanga's going to help a little bit, but midfield and in defence, if they get injuries, then
they're going to be struggling. Especially, a lot of their defenders are ageing. They're sort of Felipe, one of their starting centre-backs last year, he's 33, 34 now.
Yeah. Got a lot of experience having Joe Worrell next to him.
Yeah.
But, like you said, where's the depth?
So I have Forest in 18th.
You've got them going down?
I've got them going down next season.
Oh.
As much as it pains me to say, I don't know. I just can't. I just think the other teams around them are a bit stronger, and I think they'll be a bit more consistent. And I think it depends how if they do any more business, really, is another big thing.
So who have you got in 17th and 16th? If you've got Nottingham Forest going down.
So I have Everton in 17th.
I've got Everton in 17th.
And I have Wolves in 15th. And obviously Burnley were my 16th.
So, right, okay. So you've got Nottingham Forest going down, Everton in 17th, and Wolves in 16th.
Wolves in 15th. Burnley were my 16th.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. So I've got Wolverhampton Wanderers to go down.
Okay.
I've got Everton in 17th, and I've got Nottingham Forest in 16th.
Okay, so we've got the same 3 teams, just Nottingham Forest and Wolves.
Yeah.
The other way around.
And I think it's, yeah, you could tell from the fans and the lack of transfer activity that those three teams are going to be in for a struggle next year.
I think so. I almost had Wolves higher up than 15th
Did
when
you?
I started making my predictions. As I started to read into them a bit more and the troubles the club itself is having, I started to push them down, and they slipped down to 15th. I just think they still have a good squad, and I still like a lot of their players. I think Matheus Nunes, if they can get him playing as well as he was playing in the Portuguese league, if they can get him playing like that again, which we saw glimpses of. We even saw glimpses of it when he was playing left mid last season. I think he could be one of the best midfielders in that bottom half of the table. He is real quality. They've still got Matheus Cunha, who I don't think we've seen the best of at Wolves. I don't think probably we've seen the best of him since he was in the German league. But if they can bring that out with Podence and Neto as well going forward, I think that is still enough. They're still defensively solid, and their defensive numbers were good last season. They just struggled to score. That was the main thing, and I think, again, it's a lot of ifs with Wolves because of the situation the club is in. But if they can get Lopetegui to stay and he can get the best out of those attacking players, get more chances created and more goals, I think they will stay up.
Yeah, it's so tight with Wolves because I definitely don't think that they have a chance. Because no, they do have a chance, but I just think it's incredibly unlikely because they've thrown Lopetegui under the bus. Because when the news came out that they were being investigated for breaching financial fair play, Lopetegui apparently didn't know about it, and he was completely flabbergasted about it. And the club didn't let him know because he was expecting another summer after losing Ruben Neves to Al Hilal 47 million, losing Adama Traore, Diego Costa, and João Moutinho on a free transfer. They sold Nathan Collins as well to Brentford.
That is a big loss.
Yeah, and then I sold him and has obviously scored no goals for them last year, again after his terrible injury. We'll see how it works out at Fulham. That'll be interesting. But I just think they're lacking so much in the forward areas and numbers in the field and quality at the back. And I just think to myself, they had all the signs of Southampton last year, which is why I think that they're going to go down. Because who's going to score them the goals? I mean, they got Kolasinac, who obviously did okay in Germany. He had several injury issues while he was at Germany as well. Come over now, played like a game and got injured in that first game, out for the rest of the season. And then who are they left with? I mean, maybe they got Silva to come back after he had a great loan in PSV. But, I don't think the forward options are too great. And on the wings as well, obviously you've got Neto, you've got Sarabia from PSG, you've got Podence. But I just think, apart from Podence, both the other two are quite injury prone. Are they going to be available?
It's true.
And if you look at the midfield, yes, if Matheus Nunes comes into form, then he's going to be a fantastic player for them. But the question is if. I mean, one goal last year. I mean, admittedly, Lopetegui was playing in left wing, playing right wing, was kind of playing completely in the wrong areas. And he's going to get that chance now without Moutinho and Nunes. But, they need other players as well. They need other players to step up and control the midfield because he's not a passer and a progressive passer like the way Ruben Neves was. He's more of a get the ball and dribbling.
Carrier.
Progressive carries was his strengths. And that's going to be a different style for Wolves to play. And then also, if you look at the wide areas in the defence, all their players are more suited to playing wing back than they are full back, and they're more attacking. I mean, obviously they've signed Matt Doherty, which I think is a good signing for them on a free transfer, but it can't be just him. I mean, if you've placed Nathan Collins, who you can have at centre back? Because you got Craig Dawson, who came in January and did fantastically well. He was a bit homesick, wanted to move back to the Birmingham area. And then you've also got Max Kilman, who was apparently rumoured to be going to Napoli. Apparently that looks off as Wolves wanted a ridiculous fee, which I think completely right on Napoli's side because apparently 35 million was way too much for him. But then if you look at the backup, we've got Totti Gomez, who, yes, now a Portuguese international, but still young, still raw, still very immature in his decision-making. I think they're going to struggle, and I've got them going down. And the only way I don't have them going down is if they sign some really good quality forwards, but everyone wants those, and no one's been able to sign any yet.
Especially the price they're going to be going for Wolves aren't going to be able to splash a lot to get that.
Got to come to an agreement here.
I think we're both in agreement that Everton are going to stay up.
Just, yes.
I think if we're looking at Everton, I think maybe an agreement of them would be 16th, if we both think they're going to stay up. And it's between that 17th and 18th between Wolves and Forest. I mean, just speaking about Everton for a bit, they were 19th for goals last season, which is not great. but their XG was 15th, which is it's not bad. They didn't take their chances very well. They didn't really have a consistent starting striker. It's the same. I mean, we say every season is whether Calvert-Lewin can stay fit and score goals, which
spoiler alert, he won't.
Yeah. But I still think they've got some good attacking options. I really like Dwight McNeil still. I've always been a fan of his, and I think especially under Deitch when he played his best football at Burnley. Hopefully they can get that back out again. Dan Juma coming in, it's a good signing. He's had sort of a mix last year or so, but still a quality player. Damari Gray as well is another one going forward. It's decent. They've got the players. I think they've got better quality forward options than some of the other teams around there. And defensively, I think they're pretty solid as well. 13th for goals conceded last season. I think that definitely helped keep them up. Tarkovsky, Mikolenko, Patterson in your back line with Pickford still in goal, who was brilliant last season. They were XG expected to concede 19th in the league, and they were 13th. A lot of that down to him. And I think Deitch will keep making them more solid, keep them up. Whether he's a long-term project for them, I probably don't think so, and I don't think the owners would want to think that either. But to keep them up, keep them solid, just get them a few places higher in the table is what he will do.
Yeah, I do agree that Everton are going to survive the drop this year. I do have this niggling thought in the back of my mind that we thought this with Burnley, and then he did technically take them down, even though he got sacked before the end. He did technically take that team down. I do still worry about the defence a little bit, because if Pickford isn't amazing like he is every single season and every single game for Everton, then you are struggling, because Mikolenko offers nothing going forward from the left back position. I think that's why they signed Ashley Young to compete with him, who actually think was a little bit harsh done by Villa by not getting a new contract, because despite it wasn't a romantic feeling around him, he actually deserved it, I think, despite being 37 years old. Kept Matty Cash out of the team, initially through injury and then out of just being better form. And I think it's one where Everton have got a good player in Ashley Young, despite obviously the age profile, and obviously, you signed a player who's been around the Premier League and you're like, oh, it's a bit boring and you want someone a bit more flashier. But
he must be a good player for the dressing room as well. If he's still going at that age, it's not just what he does on the pitch. I think a lot of it is off as well.
I do think they need that Dominic Calvert-Lewin substitute, because I think Dan Juma doesn't... It's a different style of play if you're playing with him up top.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'll be starting him up front. You wouldn't think so anyway.
And they've sold Ellis Sims as well to Coventry, who's going to be the Victor Gyökeres replacement, who apparently a lot of people are saying are signing of the Championship. We'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure. I think he'll do well, but maybe not that well. But I think the replacement for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, someone to play alongside him when he's fit, which is hardly ever, and then someone to play instead of him when he's injured. I think that, and a centre-back to go alongside Tarkovsky, because I don't rate Michael Keane. I don't think Mason Holgate's good enough. Ben Godfrey's never fit, and Jared Brandtway is very, very young and raw. So centre-back and a backup to Calvert-Lewin, and I will say Everton are fine.
I think there's a decent midfield as well. They got Decore, who he comes up in games a lot of the time. He's maybe not the most consistent player. He does step up in games and he gets the occasional goal. And Onana, he is still so young. I can't believe how young he is. He looks so composed. He looks like he's been playing there for a couple of seasons. He was really good last year. I think they will be safe. I would be surprised if they go down, and especially a club that size. I don't think anyone besides Liverpool fans want them to go down.
I don't actually want them to go down. Like, I want them to stay up and be good for the city. But I mean, we said are Leicester too big to go down? They went down.
Yeah, true.
So I don't think size of club matters anymore. I just think there are so many good managers, so many good teams that you just have to be. You have to be in the top 17. You've got to avoid relegation, and if you're in the bottom 3, you deserve to be at the end of it, regardless of the size of your club. That being said, I do have Everton staying up. We need to agree on who we think is going to get relegated.
Shall we put Everton at 16th? If we both think they're going to go up, and there is a disagreement of the last relegation place.
Fine. So, do I have to convince
Forest
you?
or Wolves?
Or are you willing to budge? Or do you want to try and convince me?
This is another one with Forest. I think I had a lot of ifs for Forest, which is why I have them going down. They've got a lot of players who I think, if they're not performing, they will go down. I think with Wolves, it's more question marks about the club itself.
Even after 5-minute argument I made to you. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm happy to concede that Nottingham Forest will go down, but I will be. You are doing me a favour, and I will get you back for that later on when we have a disagreement.
See, I would rather Forest to stay up. I prefer Forest as a team, so I would like to put them at 17th, but I also don't want to change my mind and be wrong. So
no, this is the thing. We're going to be wrong at some point, and if we're wrong in all of them, we'll just won't do another podcast. Fine, Wolves to go down.
Yeah, I think you made a good argument for Wolves. I think there was maybe more problems than it seems looking at them just straight on. I think, like you've said, they've got a few good big names in there, and yeah, the problems at the club I think could be too much. If S1E scores 20 goals next season and keeps them up, I will be very happy.
I don't think that's happening. That definitely is not happening. Right, so we have our 20th to 14th, is that right? Do you want to just read them out quickly?
Yeah, we'll run through them. So we've got Luton at the bottom in 20th, Sheffield United in 19th, Wolves in 18th, Forest in 17th, Everton in 16th, Fulham in 15th, and Burnley in 14th. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that as a list.
No, that's fine. I mean, there haven't been any massive alterations to what I had initially.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we crack on through?
Yeah, should we just work our way up? So go for 13th. Who have you got in your 13th place?
So I've got Crystal Palace in 13th place. And I know there's a meme of, Crystal Palace always finish 11th, but they haven't actually finished 11th. They only finished 11th the year before last, and not for a few years. But I actually think, under Roy Hodgson, that they'll be safe, they'll be fine. There is potential for them to struggle, and there is kind of an underlying worry, even though I think they'll be fine this year, but in the future, because, they've lost Wolf as a half for free. He's gone to Galatasaray. That was a big miss. Apparently, Mikel Elise is being linked with Manchester City as a replacement for Riyad Mahrez. Mm-hmm. If he goes, and we're predicting what's going to happen, if he goes, that could be massive, because then the whole weight of that club is on Eberechi Esse to pull them through, because their forwards can't score any goals. I mean, they've got Mateta, Ayew, and Edouard, and between all three of them, they might score 10 goals across the face of the season, but they're not going to score too many more than that. I think they have an okay defense. You've got Anderson and you've got Margay, which is fine. I think they do need reinforcements at right back. Mm-hmm. I mean, Nathaniel Klein has left on a free transfer. They still got Joel Ward still at the club, who's obviously captain, but you need an upgrade on him, because although he's a fantastic servant, quality-wise, you need someone a bit more attacking the league. I think left back you're fine with Tyreek Mitchell. And midfield, I'm actually really happy with the midfield. Like I said, Eze, you got Decore, and you've brought in Jefferson Lerma, who's left Bournemouth on a free transfer as well. Yeah, just 13th. I think just Roy Hodgson. He'll keep them fine. He'll keep them safe.
He'll keep them as they are. I can't see them. It's not a project where he's going to be pushing them on. I don't think he's obviously not going to be their long-term manager given his age. But yeah, I've pretty much got similar points. Elise and Eze will be their two probably stand-up players again. I think potentially that Zaha leaving, I don't think it will hinder them maybe as much as we would have thought if he would have left 2 or 3 years ago. I don't think they're as reliant on him anymore as they used to be. I think if anything, it might free up Elise and Eze to do even more, to be even better, to have more freedom, I think, which is a good thing. I think a slight drop off, but not much. I've got them at 12th, so...
Okay, who got it 13th then?
13th, I've got Bournemouth.
So I've got Bournemouth in 12th.
Okay, yeah. Bournemouth, I think they... Again, a sort of a similar case to Fulham. They did sort of overperform last season a bit in terms of their expected numbers. But I think the direction the club are trying to go in is really good. Iraola, he looks like the right sort of manager.
Great pronunciation.
He's not their sort of panic manager of get someone in who they know, keep them in the league, just keep keeping them in the league. He is that manager who is hopefully going to be bringing them up the table. Similar sort of deal that he had with Vallecano. He took them up from the second division and then had 2 12th place finishes on the trot. Got into the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey for I think their first time ever. And I think it was a smart decision to get him in right at the end of last season. So he's got full pre-season. I think is going to make a big difference. A couple good signings already as well. Kluivert, he's still one of those players I think with a bit of a question mark, but his quality on his day. Roman Fiver as well, coming in from Lyon, a good young midfielder. And they've already got some decent players in there as well. Sort of Billing, Solanke. Solanke looks a lot better last year than he has other seasons. Maybe not sort of a goal-scoring player, but his link-up play and the way he's driving them forward is really good. And I think if they can just get a few more chances made, because their expected goals numbers were really low last year, they'll definitely be safe. And I think they could be a club that will press on.
Yeah, I think you covered it. I completely agree. I think ever since their new ownership came in and they spent a bit more money in the January transfer window, sacking Gary O'Neill, I think it was harsh, but I think ultimately, if you look at the underlying numbers, was the correct decision to make.
Yeah.
Do it during the transfer window, before the season starts, before pre-season starts, and then that way you've got a smoother transition as you can possibly hope for. And yeah, and I think they are a team on the up. It'll be exciting to see where they go in a few more years' time, because there's always that stigma around Bournemouth, little old Bournemouth with a small stadium. Do they belong in the league? Where are they going to be? But I think they're doing really well. Good for them. And I think buying players who are going to be young, exciting players who can develop into further talents is exactly the right model, and a lot of teams are following it. I mean, I think a lot depends on Dominic Solanke staying fit, because goal scoring wise, you've got him, and then you don't have too much depth underneath him. I mean, you've got Kemar Roof, and obviously a Wales legend, but he's not Dominic Solanke. He's not a Premier League striker, so depth in that wise. But I think they're a very exciting team, going to be good to watch. I think similar to Burnley, may concede a few, but they'll score a few and be exciting to watch. And what more can you hope for as a Cherries fan?
I think that's maybe why I haven't got them higher. I think there might be a bit of a worry that they try and play sort of good progressive football maybe too soon. I know it sounds a bit sort of anti-football, but with a club sort of in that bottom third of the table, it is quite a risk to play expansive football straight away. I think that can sort of overtake the basics that you sort of need to stay up. So I think they might drop off a little bit. But yeah, like you said, they play good attacking football. It'd be good to see Traore get some more minutes as well, because when he was playing last season, he looked really exciting.
Suffered an injury, didn't he?
Yeah, and they've got him on a permanent now. So that they just seem like a club going in the right direction. But for me, maybe not just that jump up to 12th, maybe just yet.
So we've got to make a decision. I wasn't too fussed about where Crystal Palace went. There could have been any of four places for me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm happy to concede that Bournemouth go 13th and Crystal Palace go 12th.
Yeah, that sounds fair to me. I think, again, that there's so many ifs. It feels like, I can't believe the season's 2 weeks away. It feels like it's right at the start of the transfer window with so much happening and so much changing. Like Elise could be the difference that keeps Palace up that high, or if they drop lower. Bournemouth 13th, Palace 12th. I'm happy with that.
So now we're getting into the juicy part. So
working our way up.
Yes. So I'll go first. Because I've got Brighton in 11th.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No, I hate to hear that.
Yeah,
I hate that.
And I know you and Brighton fans are gonna hate me for this, and I'm sorry, but I think De Zerbi's done a fantastic job with the club. And look, I mean, finishing 11th, it's not like I'm saying you're relegation contenders. No. I just think having not European football and Europa League football, not just conferences, Europa League football, I think is going to hinder the squad a little bit. And I don't think it's going to be massively, because I think, like I said, De Zerbi's a fantastic manager. The club is excellently well run, and you've got a good playing squad. I mean, you sold Alexis McAllister to Liverpool, and then you've got Mohamed Dahoud on the free transfer. You've got James Milner on the free transfer. You signed João Pedro from Watford, and you've got a couple more exciting players. You've got Verbruggen in goal, and you've also got Igor Julia coming in at centre back. And I mean, it's a fantastically well-run club. I mean, signing Igor Julia instead of Levi Colwill, who Chelsea were asking for, he got a bid rejected for £40 million, and I was like, how? In what world is Levi Colwill going to go to Brighton and Brighton putting up this much money?
Yeah.
It's just the fact that the levels that Brighton are at now and competing with these clubs, I think it's fantastic. And, I'm still saying 11th is a good finish.
I think they will miss Colwill, just saying on that point. He was so good last season. He is quality, and I think he's going to, if he's playing at Chelsea, he's going to add a lot to them, more than they're going to lose him at Brighton. And I agree, I think the Europa is going to hinder them. It seems to happen to almost every club who is qualifying for Europa or Conference. And I'm not even a Brighton fan. That's just how much I just love what they do at Brighton. I love the club.
Not like you grew up near Brighton.
Yeah. But I just think they're still statistically, they're so good. They were second for X. I know it's always about XG, but second for XG in the league last season. A club of that side is insane, and I think they're just going to keep it up. They've seemed to have replaced players that they have lost, maybe not with matching quality straight away, but we've seen this again with Brighton. They're not going out and spending the 35 million that they lost McAllister. They're bringing in sensible ones that are covering for those positions because they know that the system as a whole doesn't rely on one player. And I can't see them finishing the bottom half of the league. Maybe that's just my Brighton love goggles that I'm wearing.
If anything, I think it's me putting them Brighton in 11th as a compliment, because I think they're going to have a fantastic Europa League campaign. And I think, I mean, they didn't convert a lot of their chances that they had, but I think Evan Ferguson is super exciting. And when you think about it, he was getting linked with Man United, and for someone who only played like 19 matches last year, 6 goals and 2 assists, he's got the world at his feet at 18 years old. He's going to be 19 soon. And, he's only going to improve. And, eventually he will become Brighton's number 9. And I hope he stays at Brighton for a few years, really develops. Because United have obviously agreed to sign Rasmus Højlund from Atlanta. And I think maybe that's a move too soon, too early with a club of that size. Where I think Evan Ferguson's at the perfect club right now. Just stay at Brighton, mature, learn your trade, and then become a world-class striker. And he'll go easy for 100 million if he carries on his trajectory. But I just think, at some point, we're going to do our predictions. Some team's going to drop off a little bit, Some teams are going to go up, some teams are going to go down. And I think saying to Brighton fans you're going to finish 11th, a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, they were taking that bit in your hand off for it.
So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility.
No, I agree. I think there will be a drop off for the Europa League, but I think their squad depth is still really good. I just think like Mitoma, Enciso, March, Ferguson, just all going forward. And their backups, Buonavente, Takamedi didn't get too many minutes last season again. I think even Pascal Gross stepping in and replacing McAllister in the midfield, and they've still got Tarek Lamptey, who everyone was raving about 2 or 3 years ago, and because of his injury struggles in the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been in the starting 11 much. But again, that's just another player you just don't even think about when you think of Brighton, especially last season.
It's mental that we've talked about all these Brighton players. We haven't even mentioned Moises Caicedo.
Yeah.
He's potentially off to Chelsea, but if they keep him, that'll be fantastic as well.
I think they're playing a good game with him. They said the other day they want 100 million, nothing less, which if they get that, I think that's a fantastic piece of business for them, because as good as he is, 100 million, that is a lot of money, especially for a club of Brighton's size. I
mean, Chelsea spent 120 on Enzo Fernandez after 6 months and the World Cup, So, it's not beyond the realms of Chelsea's imagination to go and spend 100 million on Caicedo. And I think at his age, 21, 22, he's arguably worth it as well. Maybe arguably more so than Declan Rice because he has those extra years. We're not getting into that, but...
not just yet, anyway.
Not just yet.
Well, they've been rabbiting on for quite a while now, so it sounds like it's a good time for a little break and a little quiz. So we wanted to do Football Only Connect as our little quiz. It works pretty easy. Each of us have got a list of 5 players and a hidden club, and you want to guess the club as early as possible. The earlier you guess, the more points you get. So we'll do a little example run through just for anyone who hasn't played this before. So I'll have an example list of a players with a hidden club. Mev's got to try and guess the club. So in this example, the first player, who would be worth 5 points if Mev gets the club, would be Emmanuel Petit.
And I would guess something like Paris Saint-Germain.
And it is not Paris Saint-Germain. So my next player would be Jeremy Mathieu.
And I would try and find the connection, and I'd go, well, they're both French, so maybe they've played for Toulouse.
And it is not Toulouse. So you work your way down to a 3-point player now, which is Kevin Prince Boateng.
Now, Kevin Prince Boateng, he played in Spain, he played in Italy, he played for AC Milan. Did Petit play for AC Milan? I don't know. But I'm going to say AC Milan.
And it is not AC Milan. So now we're down to the 2-point player. So I'm going to go Alexis Sanchez.
And if I remember correctly, Boateng, Sanchez, and Mateo all played for Barcelona.
And he's got it. So for that example, Mev would have got 2 points. And if he wouldn't have got that and it would have gone down to the last one, he would have got 1 point. If you don't get it on the last play, no points. We'll keep a little running total of this throughout the season and see who can come out on top in the Football Only Connect.
And can I have a round of applause for my acting skills, please?
Yeah.
I think that was top notch.
Yeah,
top
acting,
notch.
doing fake guesses.
Yeah, Emmanuel Petit definitely played for PSG as well. Yeah. Right, so
cool.
I'm going to go first. So I'm going to be saying the players. Toby's going to be trying to guess which club these players are all linked to.
Mm-hmm.
And Toby, your first name is Kenny Miller.
Kenny Miller? God. I don't even think I know anyone here that Kenny Miller's played for. I think I've got one club in my head. It's either Derby or Wolves floating around, and I don't know why. I want to go for Wolves.
Incorrect.
Ah, damn.
Next player for 4 points. Dean Saunders.
Dean Saunders. Why do I still feel like it's Wolves? It's definitely not. Kenny Miller. Dean Saunders. Let's go Derby, because that was the other one I had in my head.
It is Derby.
Oh, I should have got it at the start.
I told you at the beginning it was too easy.
That was tough. They were complete guesses almost. They were just floating around in there.
Oh, so you just randomly guessed 2 Midland clubs.
Yeah, it's the Midlands, the magic
great.
of the Midlands.
Great. Now I can't wait to embarrass myself.
Okay, so I'll get a cheeky 4 points for that.
Oh.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see how Mev can do with my list.
My football knowledge past before the year 2010 is appalling.
Okay, I think we'll be okay with
And
this list then.
outside of England.
All right, so first player for 5 points, Emmanuel Adebayor.
Spurs.
It's not Spurs.
Okay.
Second player for 4 points to get a tie on the first week is Fabinho.
Fabinho.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Adebayor. Was Adebayor at Real Madrid? No. Was he at Monaco? He wasn't Liverpool. Okay. Real Madrid?
He's got it for 4.
Yes!
Well done, mate. Well done.
Oh, no, I felt like that was a bit easy.
Was it?
That was,
yeah, the Fabinho. I had Chicharito Hernandez as my third player. Maybe I should have put him fourth.
Hernandez.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe. He was on loan at Real Madrid, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there. I think he was there a couple of seasons, actually, potentially.
Was he? Yeah. Well, just because you said Fabinho, and obviously, as a Liverpool fan, Liverpool player, I was like, I know his career path.
I thought you might have missed that he was at Madrid and guessed Monaco for that one.
I knew he was at Real Madrid.
Who are your other Derby players? I'm interested to hear now.
My Derby players. So who was the first one I had? I had Kenny Miller. And then I had, who was second? Dean Saunders.
Yep.
And then my third was Scott Carson.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think I definitely would have got it on that.
Yeah. And second was Curtis Davies.
Yep.
And then first was Wayne Rooney.
Nice, okay.
I was hoping your football knowledge wouldn't be that good, and you might get in 3. But
We'll take a 4 each.
yeah, so, no, that's fine. Start off easy.
Yeah.
It's all going to go downhill from here.
Next week we're going to be pulling out bloody, I don't even know.
God,
Spartak Moscow.
What was that?
Like that?
What was the
Colo
Yeah.
from Chile. Try and, if you don't know them, they've got a great badge. That's what they're best for.
Go check out their badge.
Right, so yeah, we'll do that every week. See who can finish the most. And if you've got any crazy football connections that you would like us to see and try and guess, let us know and we'll try and put them in. So back to the episode.
Okay, who do you have in 11th?
My 11th at the moment, I have West Ham.
Mm.
I have them jumping up the league. Not a crazy amount. I think Rice will be a big loss, but the 100 million they've got, they'll be able to get in a good replacement. They haven't done too much business, I don't think, just yet, unless I'm mistaken. No Europe this year. I think that's really what affected them last season.
They do have Europe. They won the Conference League.
Oh, cool. Oh, okay. Maybe, yeah. I think 11 is definitely high enough then. I think we saw in the league how much that impacted them last year. They don't have the squad depth as much. I think they still going forward. I don't think Antonio is strong enough really to carry them any further than 11th. Scamacca's not going to play as the number 9 really. It seems he doesn't even want to be there. He's had a lot of problems off the field. One player I think who could have better seasons is Paqueta. We saw it sort of the last 10, 12 games at the end of last season. He was the player that I think he was expected to be when he signed. But yeah, I've got them 11th, solid mid-table finish.
Yeah, so this is the punchiest shout I have.
Oh God,
I'll go West Ham in 8th.
I think that is very high.
Yeah, it's something about David Moyes, which I remembered about him when he was at Everton, was that every now and then he'd have a terrible season where he'd finish near the relegation zone, but the team would avoid relegation by like 5-6 games to go. And then all of a sudden they'd be 5th or 6th the following year. And I think it's one where the squad if you look at the quality in that squad, it's a really good squad, and not just the first team, but the players they have to bring off the bench. I think it's better than some of the other teams we may be mentioning soon, and I just think that the fact that you've got to have a team coming up, and I just think for me, it's David Moyes. Despite the fact that everyone was calling for his head last year, I just think he's gonna have a turnaround. I think you can never count him out. I mean, this time Man United, this time was Real Sociedad. I think he went to Sunderland for a bit, maybe I don't know, but West Ham. I just think you can't count out David Moyes.
The big question mark for me is where do you think they're going to get their goals from? Do you think it's going to be someone like Jared Bowen, who we saw 2 seasons ago? He got, I don't know how many goals he got in the league. I think it was 14, 15. Last season, looking at their numbers, I think their top scorer was 6 goals in the league. And I think to be breaking into that top half of the table, you don't need one scorer getting you goals, but you need at least multiple players getting you into those double digits.
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't think of that.
that for me is where I think they are missing out compared to the other teams anyway.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's that 3 behind the striker, isn't it? So on the right, Bowen, in the middle, Paqueta, and I don't even know who to be on the left because they've let go of Lanzini as well.
Probably Ben Rama.
I mean, they have signed that Manchester City youngster for around mid 10 million something, but it's another one of those Man City youth prospects.
Yeah,
we'll have to see how.
Generating.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's like those players you get on FIFA who just from a youth academy with no face, and you just get another one.
5-star weak foot, 5-star skill moves.
90 plus potential. Yeah. But I don't know. And this is just a gut feeling. There's not a lot of logic in this one compared to some of my other shouts. But I just think at the beginning of the season, last year, did we think Liverpool weren't going to make top 4, Chelsea weren't going to make it, Spurs weren't going to make it? And now look at them, because people had Spurs win the transfer window, and even had them saying like, oh, maybe they're in a shout for win the league with Antonio Conte, and then look what happened to them. So I just think these positions between 15th and 8th, it could be a whole host of players, teams, and it could be anyone doing it. Understandably, Hammers fans will be very happy hearing me put them at 8th. Everyone else will be like, what on earth are you doing? So, who do you have 11, sorry?
So I've got West Ham in 11th, and I had Brighton in 8th.
Yep, so we swapped.
Yes, pretty much, which...
I am not willing to put Brighton 8th. I am willing to move West Ham much further down.
I can't see Brighton...
Who did you have in 10th?
Okay, yeah, let's go through these sort of 4 positions. We can sort of have a bit at the end. 10th, I have Brentford.
I have Brentford in 10th.
Okay, that's nice.
We can agree on
that's
that.
Good then. I probably would have them 9th, potentially even 8th if Tony didn't have his ban. I know it's like a classic, oh, Tony's gone, they're going to drop. They will a bit. He is such a key player for them, such a pivotal player. All their attacking play revolves around Tony. But they've still got some decent backup. If Mbuemo and Wissa potentially playing up front together, that's still decent. I think it's Brentford a funny one. They're such a unit. They're not like I know the play revolves around Tony, but a lot of their other players will play as a unit really well. Well managed, well run club. And Collins being a good signing from Wolves, I think that just strengthens them even further. A potential loss would be David Raya. I don't know if they're linked or rumoured to have anyone else coming in as a replacement. It seems today, from what we've heard, that Ray may be off to Arsenal, which is absolutely crazy.
Mental.
I'm not sure why. I don't know why we would sign him, but yeah, that would be a big loss for them. He's starts a lot of their attacks. Essentially, he's so accurate with his long balls, and a lot of their moves start with him. Yeah, I think 10th is pretty fair.
Yeah, I think 10th's fine. Like you said, I think there is going to be a drop-off from Tony because I think he's that good a striker. If it wasn't for his betting charges, maybe he would have gone to the World Cup with England. Mm-hmm. Maybe he would have got a move this summer to the likes of a Man United or a Chelsea who are desperately in need of a striker. And I think, it's understandable they're going to have a drop-off. I think Mbuemo is going to step up, but I don't think he can be a perfect replacement because I don't think anyone could be. I think Wiss is more of a like-for-like replacement, but Mbuemo's been banging it in pre-season as well. So... yeah, I think some of the signings are good. They brought in Eddie Collins, they brought in the South Korean Jisoo Kim. They brought in Romeo Beckham as well, of course.
Yes.
You can't wait to see him in the Premier League.
Even if it's just for the shirt sales.
Even if it is just for the shirt sales. And obviously, yeah, Mark Flecken to replace David Raya, who is interesting, the fact that David Raya hasn't gone, and hopefully that won't cause too much discourse in terms of playing squad ahead of the season, because we don't expect Raya to start. So hopefully, for Brentford's sake, he does leave so they can have a bit more harmony in the squad.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, Brentford, I did think that maybe they'd struggled last year, second season syndrome, but like I said, they're such a well-run club. 10th, they're fine. 10 will be back in January, and even if they are a bit lower, to help them get a bit higher.
Yeah, it's
So I
not.
think
Yeah, it's not the whole season, so
yeah,
it won't have too much of an impact.
I think they're
So
fine.
10th, we can
Brentford
agree on
10th. We still don't have a 11th.
11th. Still a lot of question marks on that.
Yeah, so who do you have 9th?
I have gone potentially Arsenal bias. I've gone Spurs in 9th.
Right. Toby's an Arsenal fan, by the way. Yeah,
you can probably tell.
yeah. Spurs fans give him hate.
I just think last season they finished 8th, and it almost felt like Kane dragged them to 8th a lot of the time. I mean, 30 goals last season, and none of the other sort of forward attacking options seemed to be stepping up and getting anywhere near how well Kane was playing. And I think if he goes, that is just such a big loss for them. I think he probably is going to go. I think Tottenham would be silly not to sell him now. I think Postecoglou, it's his first big job. He has not managed a club of this size before. He did a decent job at Celtic, but it's a completely different league, completely different setup. Maddison, good signing. I think if Kane goes, potentially he'd fit in the squad better. I can't quite imagine where he would play now, whether that be off the left or in the middle. I can't see him playing centre mid. Particularly, maybe if Kane goes, Son pushed up front, Maddison playing off the left. That's not bad. But they just seem to be in a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah, So I've got Spurs a bit higher up than what you have them. I'm not going to say just yet. But I think 9th is out of order, frankly. And
it's only one place less than they finished last season.
yes, but I think without... Oh, to be fair, they were out without European football for ages. They got knocked out by AC Milan, didn't they, in the round of 16?
And they're defensively, their options are not great. Pedro Porro is a good right back, and
He's a good right wing back.
Yeah, and Romero is a decent centre back, but I don't know who is going to be pairing with him. I don't know who's going to be their left back. As you're looking at Sessegnon, he's more of a midfielder than a wing back personally. Ben Davies potentially pushed up to left back from a back three. They've signed the Italian goalkeeper. I can't remember his name.
Vicario.
Yeah, is he going to be a straight replacement for Lloris?
I think so. Yeah.
Is he going to be starting every week? I think, for Spurs' sake, you'd hope so. Lloris has looked past it the last season. Really poor performances, and I think their midfield is okay. Bentancur and Højbjerg. That's a pretty decent combination. But I can't see them doing better than they did last season if Kane leaves. I think he is so good and so pivotal for them that him leaving will cause such a big drop off.
I think they'll be fine without Harry Kane. They haven't won anything with Kane. They're going to win something without Kane. The chances are exactly the same, I think. I mean, getting however much from Bayern Munich, the Spurs apparently 100 million. If they get 90 or 80, then I think they should accept that and should take the money and run. For a player with 1 year left on his contract, being a club legend, Spurs fans aren't going to hate him for leaving.
No, of course. Especially to Bayern Munich.
No. Especially at the age, the amount of years he's given. He could have left ages ago. Could have been Man City's number 9. And now in that hypothetical world, they don't have Erling Haaland because they have Harry Kane up top. So,
Christ.
I think they will be fine. I do think this is based on the fact that I think they're going to make a few more signings before the end of the transfer window. Desperately need some centre backs because, as I said, they got Romero, who's really good. Bit rash. He actually played really well in the World Cup alongside Nicolas Otamendi because he had someone next to him who's going to lead him and tell him where to be and where to go. He does not have that in that Spurs side at all.
He is having to be that leader in that back four, really.
And he needs someone alongside him. I think Eric Dyer, 1 year left on his contract. It looks like he might just stay, see out the contract and leave. Apparently, they've accepted a bid for Davinson Sanchez for around 15 million. Absolutely take that. Yep. He even got booed by his own fans towards the back end of last year, which was a bit harsh, but I think that just showed the state of the club we're in at the time. Again, Ben Davies, is he good enough for a centre back in the back four? Don't think so.
No.
At left back, maybe, but is he attacking enough? No. They've got the left wing back they loaned to Udinese last year. Urogini, I think I'm saying his name right. I'm not sure. But again, he's another left wing back that was signed by Conte, so another player that's going to fit wing back rather than full back. But I do think that, they brought in Vicario, they brought in Madison Solomon as well from who was on loan to Fulham last year on a free transfer. I think the signing players who don't have an ego and are willing to work with the team and the project and take that step up and take a few years not being great.
I know, I 100% agree with that. I think Spurs selling Kane, potentially moving Son on in a year or two, I think they have been over-reliant on those two players, and I think they need to start signing younger players for a project. They need to build a project. They've had a few seasons now, changing manager all the time, changing style of play, changing the project, and being over-reliant on Kane and Son. And I think it is just going to be this one season. That readjustment, starting a project again, will cause them to drop. I think similar to maybe Arsenal 3 seasons ago, we had brought in Arteta and we finished 8th. Could have finished lower. We weren't playing well that season, but there was something building there. And I'd like to see Spurs, because they're a big club, they're a good club.
You don't mean that.
And I feel they're in such a sticky situation. I think the best thing they can do is have a bit of a restart, and that's why I think they are going to have a drop.
I'm not happy to put them in 9th. I don't think.
Let's have a question mark around that. Maybe sort of. Where did you have them? Or did you have them quite high?
So obviously I had West Ham in 8th, and I had Spurs in 7th.
Okay.
Because I had Aston Villa in 9th.
Okay.
And I don't think that's too far-fetched. Because obviously they finished 7th last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting the Europa Conference League on the last day of the season. Beating Brighton, funny enough, who got Europa League. And I think it's one under Unai Emery, who they're going to have another good season. Because if you look at Unai Emery since he came in, his points per game ratio was 1.96, and if you average that over the course of the whole 30 games of a season, he would have got 74.5 points, and that would have meant Aston Villa would have finished in the top 4 last year, ahead of Liverpool, a couple more points in Newcastle, and a couple less than Man United, and I think that would have been a fantastic achievement. Does that mean that's going to happen this year? No, of course not, because there are so many teams who are going to come back stronger, the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, even Spurs. They're all going to be stronger. They're all going to know that Aston Villa are going to be a force to reckon with. But I think the fact that the signings, they haven't signed a bucket load of players, but they've all been smart players who all improve their first team quality. Yuri Tillemans, Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby. I think there's a player who's getting overlooked is Cameron Archer, coming back on loan from Middlesbrough last year, where he did really well. And he played 20 matches for them, getting 11 goals and 6 assists. And I just think he will be such a good foil for Ollie Watkins, who was fantastic last year. But really, they sold Danny Ings in the January to West Ham. But if Ollie Watkins got injured, they had no one. Now they've got Cameron Archer. I think they've got a bit of depth. That right side with Diaby and Leon Bailey, who was there. I think that means you can bring the likes of McGinn and Ramsey out from the wings into more midfield areas where they thrive. And if you add that along with Yuri Tillemans and Boubacar Kamara, who's I think is a fantastic defensive midfielder, who again another player who I don't see how teams higher up in the league weren't willing to looking for him, especially now he's proven to be a quality 6. I mean, you think about Liverpool needing number 6 at the moment with Fabinho apparently going, he would have been perfect for that a year ago. But I think Aston Villa, I think again it's just a European thing. I think getting the Conference League especially, they're going to just struggle a little bit. It means their focus is going to be shifted from the Premier League to the Conference League week in, week out. And, with Unai Emery's pedigree in European competitions, they're going to be favourites for that, especially after seeing what West Ham did in the Conference League as well, going all the way. So, for me, I think they're going to go far, and I think that's going to impact their league form a little bit, but only as far as getting them 9th.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Diaby and Pau Torres, that is 2 almost Champions League level signings, you would say. If Man United were making those signings, you wouldn't be surprised. Especially for the price they went for, 35 million for Pau Torres. That seems like such a bargain. He's the perfect Emery player, someone to play out from the back, someone who can pass it out, someone who's decent at carrying it out as well. It'll be interesting to see who is going to be sort of that starting partnership. I'm not 100% sure just yet. Whether it's probably be Torres and Mings.
Oh.
And then that would, because I can't see Mings being dropped. I'm sorry, and just Diego. That's what I mean. Diego Carlos, Consa, Mings, and Torres. That is 4 quality centre backs.
And that's exactly what you need when in European competitions
exactly.
as well. I mean, they've got 4 centre backs better than Spurs, who we're arguing over.
Yeah.
Better than West Ham, who we've put above them.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, it's quality and depth in those areas is what you need, and that differentiates the teams. Like we're talking about Nottingham Forest only having 3 forward players. Now, if you look at Aston Villa, they've got 2 options for the right wing. They've got 2 options for forward. They've got a whole host of options for the midfield, and it's having that quality in areas that are important and having that depth is what differentiates you from the teams who, if they have a couple of injuries, they'll still be fine. And that's what got them 9th.
Yeah, I've got them at 7th. I think they'll do the same
7th?
again. Yeah, I understand the Conference League could cause some issues. I feel pretty flexible on that one for that sort of Villa and Brighton in the 7th and 8th.
So we need someone in 11th.
So who have we got out of these teams? We got West Ham, Spurs, Brighton, and Villa. Essentially, are our 7th to 11th, aren't they? The gaps we've got.
Yeah. So
4 teams to fill in.
I am happy to put West Ham in 11. Well, actually, no, I'm not happy, but I'm willing.
I think out of those 4 teams, they are going to be probably the weakest team, you would say.
They need to sign a replacement for Declan Rice.
Do you want Brentford still in 10th, West Ham in 11th, or would you drop Brentford down to 11th?
No, because I'm pretty happy with Brentford where they are. I think a top 10 finish again for Brentford would be fine.
West Ham in 11th.
I will concede West Ham in 11th.
I think in comparison to Villa, Spurs, and Brighton, it would be quite surprising.
But I'm not taking your Spurs in 9th. I'm not having your Spurs in 9th.
So who have we got? Villa, Brighton, Spurs to fill in 7th.
Spurs are the only one out of those 3 who don't have any European football.
That's a big factor. But does that also not mean that their pulling power could potentially be less than it would have been?
No, because could you have seen James Maddison going to Brighton?
True, that's a good point.
Actually, no. He's not the type of player who Brighton would sign. But could you see him going to Aston Villa instead?
Probably. Probably.
So, okay, trying to figure this out now. 9th. I just think having no European football. We saw that season where Chelsea won the league with no European football. I just think it will help. It will give Ange Postecoglou a whole week in between matches to try and sort his team out. I think even if they get rid of Harry Kane, I mean, maybe not Richarlison, but he will score goals. But they will need another striker as well. And Dejan Kulusevski, I mean, whoever they sign, they signed permanently now after his loan from Juventus. But that is a functioning front 3 who are really good and arguably world class.
I wouldn't go that far. I think they are a good team and they've got a good selection of players. I think they're still missing some key areas.
They are, yeah.
And I think it's too much change. I think if Kane is going, a new manager, it's going to be a completely new system. Players that aren't fitting the system, even if they are decent, I think it's just going to be a lot of change.
God, I don't even know who would be club captain if you lose Harry Kane and Hugo Lloris. Eric Dyer?
Potentially.
Højbjerg.
Yeah.
Højbjerg, probably. Okay, I will concede Spurs in 9th because I am willing. I will fight harder for someone a bit later on. Go on. You can have Spurs in 9th.
I just think if
this is Toby's prediction, by the way, it's not ours.
Right. So what? Or do you want to go Spurs 8th?
Oh, I'm happy to
give you a bit of leeway.
I'm happy to go Brighton 9th and then Spurs 8th.
And then Villa 7th.
Yeah.
Or is that too much of a jump for you?
No, that's fine. So we do that.
Okay. Even putting Brighton 9th feels wrong.
Mate, they had a fantastic year, but come on.
Okay,
right,
so now we're into the top 6. We can always change this at the end
right.
if it still doesn't feel right.
Okay, so who have you got in 6th?
In my 6th position, I have gone for Chelsea.
I have gone for Newcastle.
Okay. Should we start with Chelsea? Or
well, yeah, because I've actually got them. So you've got Chelsea 6th. Sorry.
I've got Chelsea 6th.
Right.
I think they're going to be much better than last year.
Yeah.
Obviously. I think it was a lot of problems at the club and the management of the club last season that caused them. It wasn't particularly the selection of players they had. They just had too many players. And I mean, last season they were doing training games. They couldn't even do one training game. They had to have two 11-a-side games going at the same point. Problems not getting players in the dressing room, just absolutely ridiculous. They've had a big clear out now. They've had that sort of hard reset early in the window, which has been really good. And some decent players really coming in. I think Nkunku coming in is huge. He is perfect, I think, for Chelsea and for the Premier League. He is so energetic, such a good carrier. He is just that player who's going to pick up the ball, control things, and he will get a lot of goals and a lot of assists for them. He's done it for the last 3 or 4 seasons in the Bundesliga. And he's a good Poch player as well. I think he fits a Poch system really well.
Is he a centre forward?
Yeah, he would be, whether he would be a second striker or almost a false 9. I think probably a second striker probably fits him best.
What do you think behind the Nicholas Jackson?
Yeah, I think potentially seeing them play together. I think Nicholas Jackson's that player who's going to be on that last line, and Nkunku just behind. He is going to be the one controlling things. I think Mudryk is going to feel like a new signing. I don't think he got off to the start that was expected. He is still a really exciting, young, insanely quick player.
Yeah.
He's looked a lot better in pre-season as well. They're going to have Colwill potentially coming in. Colwill, Badiashile, James and Chilwell. I think that is, if they're playing a back 4. I'm not sure if they're going to be playing a back 3 or 4. That is very solid. They've got a good squad now, and they've trimmed off the fat. A fresh start, a full pre-season, which they haven't had under a manager last season. I think that caused them a lot of problems. And yeah, I think 6th is, and that's probably only because I think the teams who I've got above them will be better, as opposed to them not being quite good enough yet. I think they'll have a really decent year.
Yeah, so I've got Chelsea in 5th because I think Newcastle are going to finish 6th.
Okay.
And Newcastle fans will hate me for this, but I just think that weight of expectation, and not from Newcastle fans, but actually from everyone else, I can see the narrative of everyone playing against Newcastle, teams coming up against them, and then all of a sudden they think to themselves, right, it's Newcastle, Champions League team, we got to do really well. I think I saw a graphic, from Bournemouth season ticket holders. So then now the top 6 have become a 7 because Newcastle are added in that as well. So if you want to get Category A tickets, and Newcastle are involved in that as well, and that's going to be the case. Just small changes like that are going to impact Newcastle because people are going to be up for it against them much more. They've got Champions League football, which is going to be a little bit of distraction, but I think they don't actually have the depth to compete on both fronts. They have signed obviously Tonali, which I think is a fantastic signing for the middle of the park, and it's going to be interesting to watch the midfield because it could be Guimaraes, Tonali, and Joe Linton, and then on the bench you've got Joe Willock, you've got Elliot Anderson, you're going to have Longstaff as well. Yeah, you're going to have a really good midfield. But I think a lot of their season depends on Alexander Isak and how fit he stays. He did have a couple of minor niggle injuries here and there, but I think him and Callum Wilson will be the majority of goal scorers for them. But I think Callum Wilson, he's going to get an injury at some point. Whereas if Isak can stay fit, he's going to be world class, and you can see a bit of Henry on him. He is that good, but I just think they just don't have the depth in some areas. Obviously, they signed Harvey Barnes to replace Alan Saint-Maximin, who moved to Saudi Arabia, who I think is a good player, going to get them some more goals. But below that, I mean, who's the backup for Kieran Trippier? Who's the backup for the centre-backs? I mean, is Shaw, are you going to say Fabian Shaw is a centre-back good enough for the Champions League? Arguably, maybe not. You don't know. We'll have to see. Who's the backup for Botman? I mean, Dan Burn, who's the backup for him. He's a backup for the centre-backs as well. But then who are you going to bring in? Matt Target, who they played like less than 500 minutes last year. And obviously the main thing for me is when Bruno Guimaraes wasn't in that team for 5 games before the Carabao Cup final, Newcastle dropped off a cliff in terms of their results and form. And I think that if they lose him again at some point in the season, which is likely because, injuries and suspensions happen, that I think they will really struggle without him. Because, they need someone who can bring in, get the ball and create those progressive passes. And obviously Tonali is that as well, but how quickly is he going to acclimatise to the league? We've seen naturally Italians struggle a little bit to get used to it. It looked like from his Welcome to Newcastle video on YouTube, it looked like he didn't even want to be there.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a new signing video particularly.
No. And I think this is going to be the biggest thing, because I think it's going to be the talk and the media and the fan media about Newcastle. I don't think fans of Newcastle are going to put too much pressure on the club. But I think with their to start off with, the first 5 games, they played got Villa at home, Man City away, Liverpool at home, Brighton and Hove Albion away, and then Brentford at home. That's the first 5 games. That is tough. And how many points can Newcastle fans see themselves getting? I'd be surprised if any of them said double digits in that. But I think they're gonna have a tough start. Who knows what Champions League group they're gonna get, if they do well in that or not. And I think pressure is going to be on Eddie Howe from the jump. And I think people want to put pressure on Newcastle, of rival fans, because I think they're like, because it's kind of that balancing act of everyone was saying how amazing Newcastle were last season. And, you've got a fantastic team and now you want to see them fall. And I think it'll be people like us talking about Newcastle in a negative light, which will put pressure on them, lead to mainstream media putting pressure on them. And then I think they'll finish 6th. I think they'll do all right. But, I think there is a stigma around Eddie Howe. Is he good enough? And a lot of people are hoping for him to fail, as with Newcastle.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, in the sense that I think a lot of their sort of good games, I think they were in a good run last season. They didn't really have any terrible games. I remember that starting at the start of last season, that game against Man City, was it 3-3? And you could just feel like, I think the whole squad felt like something was building. And I think it was that sort of change of that energy, like, oh yes, we're going to get Champions League, we're going to get Champions League. Where do they go this season? How do they keep that feeling sort of running consistently? I think, like you say, at the start of the season, if they don't start well in the league, they're not going to have that same momentum that they had last season, where they just kept going and going and going.
I think football fans are fickle as well. They'll see the fact that they have a hard start, but regardless, they'll be like, they should be doing better, the Champions League team.
Yeah, the projects of the club, they are trying to build them into a big club. And a lot of it last season may have been due to the other teams not performing as well. Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs. I think that's 18 points last season, where this season it's going to be a lot harder. Those teams are going to be better. There's no way they're going to be as poor as they were last season. I think, speaking of Isak, he is that one player, I think, who will keep them up there. He is brilliant. He looks so good. And he didn't even play that much last season. And we still remember what he's been doing and what he's done. And the same as Callum Wilson. They both almost shared the minutes. Callum Wilson coming away as top 5 scorers in the league. Isak, just having those moments, being that carrier, he seemed to make a lot happen. And I think if he can be their starting striker, with Wilson coming off the bench like he did and scoring goals, I think that's really strong for them. I've got them at 5th.
You're the 5th.
I think they'll just miss out on Champions League.
So you got Chelsea in 6th and Newcastle in 5th.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm the reverse.
I can see that going either way, to be honest. Chelsea, it's kind of tough to tell just yet. 5th almost feels too much of a jump from 12th. I know they will be better, but it just feels a bit like thinking at the moment.
Chelsea have no midfield either, do they? I mean, they've sold a whole host of players. They've got Enzo Fernandez, they've got Conor Gallagher, but in terms of experience out in our Premier League pros, you got, Chukwuemeka, you've got Casada, you've got Lewis Hall, Andre Santos. That doesn't really fill you with much hope. I mean, maybe Moise Caicedo if he comes in, but where's the depth? Maybe arguably don't need it because of the fact that you've got no European football. But yeah, that midfield doesn't fill me with confidence. And that midfield is the reason why I wouldn't put them in the top 4.
No.
Because I think midfield is arguably the most important position on the football pitch. And the mess they have at the moment, they need to really sign Moise Caicedo or someone of his ilk, because otherwise they're really going to struggle. I'm happy to put Chelsea in 6th now that I've talked it out loud with you, because I just think, even the players that they do have, which are amazing, I mean, like the likes of Reece James and Ben Chilwell, how they going to be fit for a whole season?
Yeah.
You then got Malik Gusto coming in from Lyon to replace him, and you've got Kukurea, who had a pretty awful season last year. They could potentially keep a hold of Ian Maatsen, which I think would be exciting, but we'll have to see. Maybe Burnley want him back, and we'll see if another Premier League team make an offer for him. I'm happy to put Chelsea 6th and you go Newcastle 5th.
Yeah, I could see that. I would if you would have said you wanted Chelsea in 5th, I would have. I wouldn't have disagreed particularly. I think either of those could go.
I've been agreeing so far, and I thought maybe we'd disagree more come to this point.
Yeah.
And maybe we won't.
So Chelsea 6th.
Yeah.
Newcastle in 5th. I think a lot of that could be the atmosphere of the fans as well. It seems Chelsea. I know Chelsea. It's going to be a fresh season. The fans are going to feel differently, but last season the club was just in such disarray. I think they will need a good few months to sort of build the feeling of a big club that Chelsea are, get that back again, whereas Newcastle are still having that and their fans are still loving it.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. I think maybe they need to manage expectations post Roman Abramovich, but it doesn't seem like that's the case at the moment, just going off online social media. But we'll see. Yeah. So it does appear we have the same 4 teams in the top four.
Yeah, it's not a lot of agreement.
What a great video this is. So who you got in 4th?
I have got United.
Okay.
In 4th, I think it's all that talk that they need a number 9, and they do need a number 9. Højlund, I feel like, is such a risky signing. He has only played 39 professional games in club football, and they're going to be paying 70 million euros for him, which is just, I feel like, it's crazy. I feel like it's such a big risk. I obviously don't know much about him, but I don't know whether he is the sort of player who would be able to handle that, being of that age, having almost this much hype around him for the little football that he has played. He scored 10 goals for Atalanta last season. I think he probably played around 20 90s or so. It wasn't a lot of football again. I think most of the hype probably came from his international games for Denmark, 4 goals in 6 games. Or was it 6 goals in 4? It was a very good return for Denmark.
Yeah, he did really well.
In their qualifying campaign. And he's going to be a much better option than Weghorst was last season, and Mauricio would be. I think that's sort of the missing piece of their puzzle. And last season they were decent. I know there was that talk mid-season of them being a title race, but then it seemed they sort of were dropping, and people were still unhappy. But I think they were still decent last season. They finished 3rd. I think their winger options are good. Rashford, Anthony, Sancho, and Garnacho. That is a very solid group of 4 players to pick from. I really would like to see Sancho start playing better football, because he is, on his day, so good, such quality, such a creative player as well. And then Mount coming in as well is he's probably playing a lot deeper than he did compared to Chelsea, in a midfield 3. You're probably looking at Bruno, Mount and Casemiro. Bruno and Mount as those 8, so much energy, such good pressers, such good carriers. And Casemiro sitting. That is a really solid looking attacking midfield unit. And I was just about to say, defensively, there may be potentially some question marks on centre-back. Martinez and Varane, decent pairing, but not too much back up there. But last season, David Gea getting the Golden Boot, most clean sheets in the league, was Man United.
Golden Glove,
sorry. Golden Boot,
not Golden
37 goals for De Gea.
Yeah.
And now they've got Onana coming in as well, which just strengthens that even more. He is going to be a really strong player. He's going to be, again, one of those goalies who's creating attacks for them, as well as being a brilliant shot stopper. We saw that in Milan in the Champions League semi-finals against AC. He was pinging balls out so accurately and starting attacks at the halfway line just from one pass, sucking in the pressure and passing it out. And I know it's going to be dropping a position, but I can pretty confident in saying that they will be getting top 4. I think they're still really strong. And if Højlund can get off to a good start and live up to that price tag, handle the pressure, it's a big risk, then they will get it. But I think even if he doesn't fit in straight away, they've still got enough quality around him to stay up there.
Yeah, I think how Rasmus Højlund starts off the season is going to be so important, because he's brand new, he's young, he's come to the league for the first time. No one's really had watched him too many times, like I said, he did 39 senior appearances. I think the initial reaction people have will be one that would stay for a while, because you have that for another, like you had with Anthony. Yep. People were saying he doesn't do much, he's not really that good, just showy, bit flashy, but really actually had an alright season for his first year in the league, and people saying for the amount of money you paid for him, but that's not his fault, is it? He actually did really well for the time he did come in. And, he's young, so he's really going to improve. And I think Højlund needs to get off to a good start, because you can see the way that the trolls of football are going to work, and they're going to be like, right, he sounds a bit like Haaland, is Scandinavian as well, looks a bit like Haaland. And, they're just going to make fun of him for being like a not very good version, considering as well Haaland plays for Man City and Højlund plays for United, the two rival fans going at it. But I think it's a perfectly good signing. 70 million euros, it's a lot, but, Man United tend to overpay, and there's a lack of in the striker market, there's a lack of quality strikers. So you have to go for someone a bit younger, a little bit more experienced in green, and hope that Erik Ten Hag can make him into play, which I don't doubt he's going to do.
Yeah, I can definitely see that in terms of Ten Hag, I think, has picked a player that suits his system, not just he's this sort of name that's come up. I don't think he is one of those signings where it's just, this young striker, he's meant to be really good. He hasn't actually played much. He's meant to be really good. A lot of money, get him. I think he's thought he is the right profile player that he can hopefully build into, as opposed to someone who's going to be an instant £70 million striker. I think it's a long-term project looking at him.
Yeah, but considering the amount of money they paid for him, it looks like they're going to have to keep Anthony Martial, otherwise, because they get rid of him, they're not going to have any backup options. And I know, it's 2023 and we're saying Anthony Martial needs to stay at Man United, but he's got 1 year left of his contract. Who's going to be paying a fee for him and the wages he's on at the moment? No one really. So you're better off keeping him as a backup option, helping Højlund adjust to the league, rotating them when Martial is fit. You could maybe play Rashford up there as well, Bruno as a false 9. I mean, Sancho's been playing there in pre-season as well, but I think you'll have to keep Martial. And I think the defence is actually all right. Again, like you said, the cover for the centre-backs is a bit of an issue. When they lost Varane and Martinez towards the back in the last year, it was a bit difficult. I mean, Lindelof, I think, is a perfectly fine backup when he's not playing alongside Maguire. But they also need to get rid of Harry Maguire. Stripped him of the captaincy. I think it's time he goes.
Seems like he's going to be off. I think West Ham have had an initial bid of 20 million.
Yeah, they rejected it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're going to come back with much more, really.
No, I think I can see, he will go. He will 25 maybe. Just playing a bit hard to get.
I don't think United are going to finish 4th. I've got them a bit higher. I've got them 3rd.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that. I think it could be one of those things where it is going to depend on, like we said, with their centre-back injury. We saw the drop-off with Casemiro last season. They still don't really have that sort of backup 6. McTominay's not 6. Fred's not 6. I don't think unless it's a season-long injury, I don't think it's going to affect the top 4 chances. But
no, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because I've got them in 3rd because I've got Liverpool in 4th.
Yeah, and I've got Liverpool in 3rd.
Great. Okay, that's the theme of this video. We'll see if it comes to the top 2 as well. Because I'm a bit conflicted. Because I'm not sure what to think at the moment. Because coming out of the end of last year, it was a bit of clarity from what was, frankly, quite a cloudy season in which there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of change, and you didn't really know what was going on. But what came out of last season was we need to sign midfielders, we need to sort out the midfield. And coming out of the last season, playing this new system where Trent was going to be more inverted into midfield, he's going to play alongside Fabinho, and then we need some more attacking midfielders to take up the spot that Thiago and Jordan Henderson were taking place. And we seem to be doing that right at the beginning of the window. Signed Alexis McAllister, great signing. World Cup winner, 35 million, fantastic signing. And then a couple of weeks later, you signed Dominic Szoboszlai, which I think, again, another fantastic signing. Takes the number 8 after playing tremendously well at RB Leipzig. But then along comes Saudi Arabia, and they take Jordan Henderson, which was more of a blow off the field than it is on the field. However, it is still a miss because he's a player you intended to have in the forthcoming season. So without him, now need to sign a replacement for him. And now we're probably going to lose Fabinho as well. For £40 million, I think you would take that, but it just comes a bit sooner than I think Liverpool would hope for and Jurgen Klopp. So now we are stuck in this phase of the window with a couple of weeks to go where I'm not sure where we're at. We need to sign a defensive midfielder. We're linked with Lavia, and I think he's a fantastically fine player. But I think to sign a 19-year-old when your backup is an 18-year-old in Stefan Petejic, I just think it's risky. It's massively risky. And, if the scouting department and Jurgen Klopp and his coaching staff think that Lavia is the person they want, who am I to disagree when they've signed so many promising players before and turned out to be really well? I just think it's a risk. And then you're losing the leadership of Henderson, along with Milner, who already left on the free to Brighton earlier on. Is Virgil van Dijk going to be the captain? I mean, there's lots of people that are a little bit indifferent because he struggled with the captaincy for the Netherlands. So people are saying Alisson, Salah, outside shadow, Trent, give it to someone who's going to be the captain long term. But we need to sign more midfielders now. So we already sold a bunch of midfielders who were never fit anyway. Keita, Ox, they were never fit, so you couldn't really count on them.
Yeah.
We brought in fit players, but then it's also the question if you're inverting Trent, you're moving the back 3 across. You need backup for Kanate, who's a bit faster than Matip is. But if you're playing Europa League football, then do you really need a backup? Well, I'd say yes, because Kanate always gets injured at some point in the season. So is Matip good enough? And then I think to myself, Robertson's going to be playing left centre back. And, and then when Tsimikas is on the pitch as a backup, he ends up being the one inverting because he can't do it in the back three. And, and the only part of the team which I feel like I'm really confident in is the forward line.
Mm-hmm.
Because Nunes has been scoring goals, plenty of goals in pre-season. He's got a year under his belt now. Gakpo, is the most Firmino-like player we have. A very intelligent player. Plays in the 8 in some games for us, including Madrid away at the Bernabeu. And I think like the Diaz and Jota were played with injuries last year. Going to do a bit better if they can stay fit. And then Salah. And then you got young Ben Doak on the bench as well, coming in for him sporadically. But indifferent. But I think the factor that I think is going to make him in the top 4 is Jurgen Klopp. So I'm happy to keep him 4th. I don't personally see them any higher, but I could arguably also see Liverpool challenging for the league.
I think it is that it could be too much change too quick with the amount of players you're losing in your midfield and the amount of players that are coming in. There's no doubt that McAllister and Szoboszlai are brilliant and they will play well. But it's how quickly they can adapt, how quickly they can become a part of the system. You still do need another midfield, like you say. Lavia is he'll be a good signing, but it's a lot of change. And yeah, you said your front three is brilliant. Diaz is going to feel like a new signing after missing him almost all of last season. Nunes will be a lot better. He'll start scoring a lot more than he has. And I think it is just that sort of midfield defensive question where give it a year or two and those signings coming in and you sort of rebuilding that midfield, and it will be that classic Liverpool City clash for the title again. I think you will just fall a little bit short of that this season, but I think again you'll be much better than last season. That last 10-15 games of last season was, I think, the real Liverpool that we have seen before, and I think that will carry on into this season. So I've got them 3rd. I'm happy to put them. I'm happy to put them 4th. I mean, if you're a Liverpool fan saying you'd rather put United above, you must be pretty confident that you're not there just yet.
I'm a bit uncertain because I don't really mind which way these two go. Yeah, should we just go Liverpool 3rd just because I want to be above United? We'll go Liverpool 3rd.
Okay,
You
yeah. Let's be optimistic for Liverpool and put them 3rd.
Yeah, and then top 2.
Top 2 is
so go on. Who have you got winning the league?
I have got City, of course, winning the league. As much as I'd like to put Arsenal winning the league, I know. As much as I'd like to put Arsenal winning the league, I don't think we're just there yet. I think if City would have lost a few more players, I think I would have been a lot more confident and even potentially putting Arsenal first. But it seems like they're keeping hold of Bernardo Silva, who is pivotal for them. He is one of their most important players. I think Foden and Alvarez are going to get a lot more minutes than they did last season. Foden, one of their best players, one of the best young players in the world, was not playing much last season, and they still won the league by the end fairly comfortably, whether that was due to City's brilliance or Arsenal's lack of experience. I think Foden will be coming in. You could even see Foden potentially playing centrally in that system that they have, in that front four behind the striker. Grealish, Foden, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Alvarez, Haaland. It's too good. It's too good for them not to keep it up, I think. Gvardiol coming in as well is just making their defence even better. They've got such a good number of centre-backs now.
Okay, so what do Arsenal actually need to do to win the league?
I actually don't think it's at a point where we can really do too much at the moment. I think it is essentially just a waiting game, waiting for City's quality to drop. I think there's such a well-run system with world-class players in almost every single position that I don't think the squad we have at the moment can match it just yet. I think we're getting there. I think maybe in a year or two, another year under Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, because a lot of our players are still so young. Jesus having more time at the number 9 will make a difference and get us up there. Rice coming in as another young player who is probably at a similar level to Partey.
And it looks like we're going to keep Thomas Partey as well now. Yeah, which is huge, I think.
Some people might not see as a direct upgrade. I probably do at the moment. I think Rice is fantastic. But he, again, is only going to get better. And the same with our defence. Saliba, White, Gabriel Zinchenko, those players are still growing. I think it's I don't think there's anyone we can bring in or much we can do to sort of catch them. It's just City are so good at the moment, really.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of? There are some fans saying that Arsenal are going to drop off with Champions League football as well.
It happens to every club. It does. It's one of those things that is pretty inevitable. But I think our squad depth is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got a secondary player in each position that is strong enough to play in the cup competitions and I suppose early Champions League pretty comfortably.
Who's Saka's?
That would be the only position
Okay.
I would say that we don't. But I would say like a front three. If I don't think Balogun probably would stay. It seems like he wants to go. But in Ketcher, Trossard, and Nelson, I think Nelson is the weakest in that sort of cover. And then sort of looking at you, Smith Rowe, Vieira, Jorginho, Partey as a midfield is good enough, I think, for cover. Obviously, again, it's just a case of not being quite as good as City just yet.
Yeah, and that's quite demoralising, isn't it? Because I do agree with you that I think even though City have lost a bit of quality, and they're going to have the likes of Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva still in midfield with Phil Foden on the bench, and they've got some incredible youngsters as well, like McAtee as well coming through. Cole Palmer's gone out alone this year. I mean, I just think, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe Arsenal win the league this year just because they've maybe sold too many players. I mean, they brought in Kovacic as well from Chelsea.
Yeah,
who I think he's a different player to Gundogan, but he's going to still give them something different.
he's still quality. Yeah.
And he's arguably maybe going to be even better in that midfield if they're going to have a centre back joining them as well, and going to be and he's maybe going to be playing better deeper, and then De Bruyne can have even further license to get forward and join the attack. So. Yeah, it's pretty demoralising being in the same league as Man City, I guess.
It is. It's very difficult to not just put them as first.
Yeah.
They are still so good. Is Haaland somehow going to be even better?
I mean, sure. I mean, he can. I mean, he can be. He can be. He's so young, and I think there's still so many elements of his game we haven't even seen because he doesn't need to show it.
No.
Because I'd love to see him getting the ball from deep and running a defensive more, but really, he doesn't need to do that when he's got other players. Yeah. All he needs to worry about is stretching the play and then getting the ball and putting it in the back of the net. And he's really good at it, and that's why, I think the only hope for the rest of the league is Pep Guardiola eventually leaves, gets bored.
I think that is the case. It's just waiting for him to go. That system to not be as precise and as good as it is. When talking about Arsenal dropping off, I can't see us dropping off that much. I think we haven't lost any big players. We have only gained 3 really good, young, exciting players. I know we had that fall off at the end of last season, which, if we get into that position where we're top of the league, it could happen again. It's a young squad. I think the hype sort of swallowed the squad up, and I think we probably got ahead of ourselves. I think a bit in terms of the team. And this season, would rather be chasing it. I think that's a much better position to be in. I think if City are the ones to catch, I think we would be playing better. It's not ideal, obviously, looking ahead and seeing City above because they're not going to drop. But I think for Arsenal, it would be a better position for us to be in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the year Liverpool won the league. I thought chasing was always a better position to be in. But then when it's Man City, they're not going to drop points.
Yeah.
So the year Liverpool won the league, we just won every game. I mean,
that's all it is.
That's all it is.
That's what you got to do to win the league.
It's as simple as that.
It's just win every game. It's easy.
Yeah, and on that bombshell. No, I think that those are Premier League predictions. I mean, we've just about agreed on almost everyone.
I think we've pretty much agreed. Should we go through it and see if there's any last sort of second changes that we want? So at the moment we've got Luton in 20th, Sheffield United in 19th, and Wolves in 18th. So then we've got just surviving are Forest, Everton, and Fulham in 17th, 16th, and 15th. And then 14th, Burnley, 13th, Bournemouth, 12th is Palace, 11th is West Ham, 10th is Brentford, 9th is Brighton, 8th is Spurs, 7th is Villa, 6th Chelsea, 5th Newcastle, 4th United, 3rd is Liverpool, 2nd Arsenal, 1st City.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that.
I'm pretty happy with that. I could see that happening. You could see a few little changes you could make, but I think overall it's pretty decent, pretty solid.
At the end of the day, I think it's a little bit too straightforward, and I think there are going to be some massive changes. And I think for me, that between 7th and 12th, where anything could happen.
It could, yeah.
Whereas I think in terms of relegation top four, we're pretty all right. I think. I mean, we may be looking back on this at the end of the season, being like, well, what on earth were we talking about?
It's going to end up being Arsenal in 9th and Spurs in 2nd, isn't it? Just because I pushed for Spurs to be.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
Well, I pushed for Liverpool to be. Well, I didn't push. I was just like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take Liverpool ahead of United, but. Yeah. I mean, I think there's some perfectly fine shouts. I think there's some really good shouts from us, and some shouts where we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if we keep an eye on that as the season goes on, see how the games progress, see how the team progress, and we'll definitely take a look at the end and see how well or how badly we have done.
Yeah, I think we've rambled on for enough now. So thank you everyone who's watching and listening for joining us on the Football Fellowship podcast. I've been Mev,
and I've been Toby,
and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode, and we hope you can join us.
All right, cheers.